Wow, it's a good workout in the morning.
Hi, my name is Zaiho and I'm the founder of the Gong's Mochi.
Hello, my name is Stephanie. I'm aged 29 this year, the founder of Dochi Dochi.
Gong's Mochi basically sells the traditional mochi, which commonly known as glutinous rice flour, coated with a thick layer of peanut and sugar.
The word dochi may seem very unknown to a lot of people. It's actually a combination of a donut and a mochi, which is why in short term we call it dochi. We mainly sell the bite-sized mochi donuts. A few popular flavors. It's Parmesan garlic butter, Oreo bomb, Biscoff crunch, and we have a new flavor that's truffle mushroom.
I started back when I was in JC. I started Gong's Mochi mainly because of my granddad. I was in the army. I received news from the doctor that my granddad has only 3 months to live on. The doctor suspected that he had stage 4 cancer. This mochi is something that my granddad actually hold very dearly. So I thought that I should learn from him and continue this tradition.
Yeah, Dochi Dochi just started as a home-based business since last year July. I'm actually a hotelier. During the pandemic, as a hotelier, it's really hard to sustain. I decided to return back to Singapore to start something different. I just want to make my life more meaningful. Yeah, doing something which what I love.
And when I took over the business from my granddad, it's still made using a glutinous rice flour, coated with a thick layer of peanut and sugar. So this form itself hasn't changed. I think as more and more food actually being revolutionized, people are expecting more variety. People are expecting more interesting looks. There will be more flavors that emerge from it.
The texture within the mochi donuts is similar to what you're eating mochi. Both have to be consumed while it's fresh and hot. Ours is actually a lighter version of a chewy donut. I must say Dochi is still very new. It's somehow really different from the rest of the other mochi. So I would say we are one of its own kind, correct? I hope that it will actually get better and better.
Welcome to the last episode of Test of Time. You want to take a guess on what you'll be doing today? Do you actually know?
So what's happening next?
Okay, so your challenge for today is you'll actually be swapping roles for a day and learning to embrace the differences in your jobs, even though you're in the same trade.
I love mochi a lot since I was a little kid. So I hope that I can actually see how they actually make it. Because all we know is just by eating back then, correct?
Yeah, I'm really excited to learn about how Dochi Dochi is actually making their mochi. I think the most important one is to learn how appeal to the younger customers and see how actually a traditional mochi can actually complement the modern taste.
So without further ado, let's head over to Gong Mochi first.
Okay.
Alright,
Let's go! My impression of today's equipment is that compared to my Dochi Dochi making, it's really little, the equipment. I think you can see you're gonna be a lot of manual work because I don't see a whisk here as well. Correct, yeah?
What you need to do over here is that we just have to pour the water into the flour and make sure that it becomes a dough. So how we usually do it is that we will create a small little hole in the middle, then just pour the water into the middle. Then you can start mixing. So it's just using hand and then try to back and forth. You just have to make sure that there's no powderish form, and that will be done. So right now it's a little bit more powdery. So we will just add more water to the aggravation.
The aggravation, okay.
Yeah, then make sure that the powder becomes dough. Okay, then I think you are more or less done. Then you just have to make it into a nice shape. Usually we will try to scoop it from the bottom to make sure that there's no powder.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we are done here. So this is how the dough will look like. So what we have to do right now is we take a little bit, then we make it into flat and let it cook. Yeah, so we just go like that and throw it. Some people will think like it's mee hoon kueh. Yeah.
Yeah, traditionally when my grandma taught me the mee hoon kueh is about that as well. Just that it's softer, this one.
How do we actually know that it's cooked? Basically floating up, so everything floats up. Make sure there's no not a lot of water, right? Then just throw it. So over here will be the cooked glutinous rice flour. So what we'll do is we'll just try to mix it. You scoop it up and then you push it down. And then from here you push it up. So in any direction, correct, in any direction, and sometimes you can do a swirling action. So the objective is to make sure that there's no clump into one big piece. The harder you hit, the longer you do. When you actually bite, it will be more chewy.
So every day you are doing it 5 kg?
Yeah, so this is just 1 kg, right? So I think the typical batch is 5 kg lah.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it.
A few moments later.
Wow, it's a good workout in the morning.
Now the dough is done. Another part of mochi is not just the glutinous rice flour, it's also the layer of the peanut and sugar. This is a very standard setup of our events pop-up store. So we have the this metal thing, which we actually will put the peanut later on. We grind and roast the peanut ourselves. So this process will sometimes can take up to hours. So this is actually my granddad's secret recipe. Typically in a setup, we just pour it over.
Okay.
We use this towel, and then we'll go into the flour. We'll grab, and then we'll cut, and then we'll push it into here. So we just have to coat it with peanut and make sure we coat it well. Then we just cut into one line, and then we just cut into a square shape. Then you just cut, then you cut. You can try.
Okay, like that?
Yep. Then you just put it with a layer of peanut first. Yep.
Alright.
You can pull the thing, so you can pull it. Like you can
But imagine so fast, I see them doing it. It takes skills really, every little thing takes skills.
Yeah. So I think typically we can cut about 100 boxes in an hour. So this is about I would say 2 boxes. Now
Then
comes
just
the packing. Then you just coat it with peanut, so you can use a comb to scoop some peanuts. Then that's a lot, but it's good for people who love peanut. Then you just have to put a toothpick, and you're done.
Hi, can I have one set of mochi?
Sure, just hold on. Thank you.
One with less peanut, then the other one a lot peanut.
Sure.
Sure.
Hold on. Just hold on. This one less peanut, yeah?
Thank you.
More peanuts, right?
Oh yes, full.
Yeah, can.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think people should really appreciate mochi even more. Please really support them if you can, because it's really a very tedious process, especially from whacking that glutinous flour to churn it into a dough. Physically tedious, really. I find it interesting to know even cutting requires skill. I think the first few process actually wows me a lot because I technically do not have any idea how to actually cook the glutinous flour.
Can you rate out of 10?
To be honest, I would rate her 10 out of 10 maximum.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I think the first time when I started learning from my granddad, right, it didn't turn out like that. Okay, great. So now it's your turn to show me how is it done at Dochi Dochi.
Oh, sure. Let's
Let's
go. We are here right now at Dochi Dochi, the physical storefront at 95 Joo Chiat Rd, and we are going to learn how to make dochi from scratch.
So I think the kitchen at Dochi Dochi is pretty much very established. So I think this is very similar to how we actually make the traditional mochi. Just that actually I see that there's some more equipments that they actually use, like whisk, which we don't. We use our hands. And I think the only difference for dochi, they're actually using oil to actually make the donut.
First of all, we will start off with getting some water to actually make to put into the yeast here. So usually after we make the yeast, right, we will have to let it rest for a while. Yeah, then we gotta whisk it. Then we have to let it rise for a while as well before frying the dochi. Dochi itself is a lot of, I would say the whole process is quite time consuming, which requires a lot of patience, correct? Whereas what I've learned from Muah Chee earlier on is that It's not so time consuming, but rather a lot of physical work. It's a very traditional method. Over here, I can say it's a mix of both the modern and traditional method. So it's like all the techniques are in it for dochi process, which I'm going to show you all how I do it later on. So now we will mix the ingredients into the flour. Okay, pour it in. Okay. Alright. So we can actually start to whisk. As what you said just now, like during mochi we don't waste, right? So just remember, underneath the flour have to be thoroughly mixed with the mixture first, just in a circular motion all the way corner. Okay, I just need a bit of the flour more. So sometimes there's aggravation as well because you don't want it to over whisk. Once it's over whisk, right, it will become just watery also. You don't want it to be too watery. Yeah. Right now, we need to cling wrap it, and then we have to put it into the prover for it to rise. I will take, see my hand, I scoop it up, like that, okay?
Okay.
This thing must have a up, up, down, like that. Yeah, this is really hard, the technique, it's not as easy.
Okay, at least it's looking like ball.
Okay. But I think for a first start, it's really good. You can see at least it's a ball. He can at least churn out at least some round shape. I mean, be it whether is it the right size of the round shape, right? I think it's still pretty good. So right now, I'll be guiding Zaiho to actually garnish the two mixed sweet flavors, and that will be a biscoff crunch and Oreo bomb. Zaiho, you will be doing the biscoff crunch, and I will be doing the Oreo bomb. So you can kickstart by actually putting the sauce. So now the sauce are all done. Yeah. So from here, you can actually put the icing sugar. End product.
It's indeed less physical, less manual work, but there's a lot of skills involved. Making the balls and then throwing it or gently putting it into the oil. The
You
oil.
sure that's fun?
Yeah, it's quite fun. Yeah, it's quite fun.
To be realistically, it's 9.8. But in my heart, I wanted to give 10. The reason why is because he's very sincere and patient throughout the whole process. For a first timer, I think it's really good. It was tiring but fruitful. It was a good experience and I learned from it. Despite with less equipments, that does not mean that it makes the work lesser. It is quite challenging for me because it requires a lot of physical hard work, I think. It kind of made my arms sore, doing that. I can't imagine me doing it like for the whole day.
It's a very humbling experience. The entire process of making dochi is actually a rather long process. There's a lot of steps involved. So I think it's just like 1 liter, maybe like this size of a ball. But the process, the effort that goes into this size of ball is actually really huge.
We have to learn how to appreciate the traditional method cooking of a food. I think because back then, our grandparents' era, there isn't shortcuts. It's not just about having fun, it's about being appreciative of all the food that you eat.
What stood out for me the most is actually there's much more similarity between actually making the traditional mochi and as compared to how Stephanie actually makes her dochi. A lot of effort has been put behind the scenes. It takes a lot of understanding of how the food actually is to actually make it into the perfect condition.
To actually come out with a yummy food, it's not just about cooking it. I think it's about cooking it with love. It wasn't much difficulty faced because he actually guided me really well.
Steph has also been a very good teacher, a good mentor to actually taught me how to actually make the dochi.
For the youngsters out there, it's not just about passion, really. Once you actually lost that fire, you may not be able to move on. So before you actually think of moving into F&B, you got to ask yourself a lot of such questions as in, can you actually work for long hours? Are you flexible enough? And in F&B industry, it's actually service industry. You got to serve the customers with all your heart.
at the form of its roots, right? I think food and beverage actually boils down to the taste lah. A lot of time and effort needs to be put on into your R&D. Never shun away from failures. So I think
It's not easy, but it will be okay.
thank you for watching this episode of Test of Time.
If you like this video, you can watch our other videos here, and do remember to like, share and subscribe. Bye!
Bye.